If you're looking for highly customizable Death Knight WeakAuras for Wrath of the Lich King Classic, well, you're watching the right video. I'll be showing you how to install and properly customize them to your liking. We have a lot to cover, so let's get right into it. Alright, so let's begin with the installation. Before we do anything, I recommend that you delete the previous version of the WeakAuras that you were using. This will ensure that we get a clean new install, which will limit the risk of possible issues. You'll only have to do this process once, since in the future, you'll simply have to update them as needed. Let's head over to Luxthos.com in order to copy the import code. The link is provided in the description down below. Simply scroll down on the page, click the button to copy the code, and head back to World of Warcraft. Once you're in-game, make sure to open up the WeakAuras panel by typing /WA in the chat window. Click Import, paste the code, and you're done. One thing to keep in mind is that the name of the actual groups are very important. You need to make sure you do not rename any of them. Also, make sure you do not have any duplicates. If you have multiple copies of the same WeakAuras, the added number to the group name will cause you some issues. The last thing on our list before we move on to the customization is to make sure we activate the action bar cooldown number in the interface options. Without this, if you're using the default UI, you simply won't see any number on your auras. If you want to change the look and behavior of those numbers, you can use an add-on like OmniCC or something more complex like ElvUI. It is important to notice that both these add-ons will replace the default number. So make sure you don't have both options active at the same time, or you'll be seeing some overlaps. Alright, so we're going to move on to the customization, and we're going to start with placement and sizing. Because I'm using a resolution of 1440p and a UI render scale of 100%, you might be seeing something different on your end. The WeakAuras might be bigger or smaller, and I'm going to show you how to change just that. So first of all, open the WeakAuras panel right here. We're going to click on Luxthos Death Knight group right here, the global group. And we're going to click on the group tab over here. You're going to see that we have access to the group slider. So you can move that down to size them down or up to size them up. We're going to reset it. We have the X offset here. So if you want it to be off-centered, left or right, that's going to be a possibility. And you can also move it up and down with the Y offset here. So you're going to be able to do just that. So if your resolution or UI render scale is a little bit different and you want to adapt it to your UI, you're going to be able to do just that. All right, so we're now going to be moving on to the groups, their utility, and how to organize the information within them. So it's going to be quite straightforward. Things have changed, but I want to go quickly over every single group in here. What do they do? What do they contain? And how can you customize them to your liking, right? So things changed quite a lot since previous version of the WeakAuras for Burning Crusade, Shadowland, and even Battle for Azeroth. The icon used to be a lot more static. So everything had a static positioning, and it was a little bit complicated to move pretty much anything in here. You would always run into some issues if you wanted to move things, and I've simply changed to a new design idea that will be a lot more free-flowing and a lot more customizable. So everything starts with the core. So this is going to be the core group. It's going to contain all of your offensive and all of your rotational, your offensive and defensive cooldown. Pretty much everything that makes your class is going to be sitting in this core group. And if you look over here, you're going to see that something cool is happening. So there's 8 icon on the first row. This is what I call the main bar at the top. And everything else after those main 8 icon overflows to the bottom into the secondary bar that I call here at the bottom. So what's really, really cool is this is dictated by pretty much the order of the icon in the group. So if you want to move things up and down these 2 bars, it's all automated. You don't have to change anything. The only thing you got to do is click and drag and everything changes. So let's say that I would like Frost Fever, which is currently sitting right here. Frost Fever and then the other disease are going to be sitting here. Let's say that I want to switch Frost Fever and Blood Plague. I can simply click, do that, and now they've changed position. and I can go ahead and revert that quite easily. Like I said, we can also move them up and down depending on where we place them. You're going to be able also to change the amount of icons that are showing up in the first bar, and everything is going to flow and feel really good and look really good, right? So it's always going to maintain pretty much like the same size. So the bottom is never going to outgrow the top section here. So everything is going to be nice and cool, and you're going to be able to modify that. I'll show you how in a later segment of the video. So that's going to be it for the core group. This is the most important one, but this is the one that anchors everything else around it. So we're going to go over now to the dynamic effect here. So as you can see, the dynamic effect is this little group that sits on the left side here, and then you have the dynamic that sits on the right side over here. So these are going to be the dynamic section at the top of the core group. Dynamic effects is quite simple. It contains pretty much every proc. So buff, debuff, tier sets, bonuses, and all of that good stuff. It's all going to show in here. These are going to be like short-lasting little buff and debuff icon, and you can move their order as well. So if you want things to be in a different order, feel free to drag and drop and change everything to your liking. All of that good stuff is going to be sitting right here. We're going to go over the dynamic spells now. So the dynamic spells is going to be pretty much a couple of abilities that didn't quite fit into the core group. So these are going to show up whenever they're used. So whenever they're on cooldown, they're going to quickly show up and they're going to then disappear. So let's say that we go over and get Dark Command here, go over to the target dummy, and we press, you're going to see the Dark Command now shows up here on cooldown, and as soon as it goes away, it's going to let you know that the ability is ready again. If you would like to change this, and you would like, maybe you're like, you know what, Lux, I kind of want Dark Command to be part of my main rotation. Well, it's quite simple. All you need to do, click the ability, drag it, put it into the core group, and you're good to go. You're going to change the trigger of the ability. So the cooldown trigger for this ability, instead of being on cooldown, you're going to hit always, close this out, and there you go. So now Dark Command is sitting at the top right here. You can change, obviously, the order if you want it to be in a different position, but that's all you got to do. So simply, we're going to move it back. It all resizes itself automatically. So everything is handled for you here. There we go. So you're also going to have Corpse Explosion and the Revenge proc that is going to be sitting here in this dynamic section. We're now going to move over to the next groups, which are going to be the left and right side here. Those two groups are going to be sitting on the left and right side. And right now they're empty and they're completely useless. But I mean, not really useless. They have a utility. So what we're going to do with these groups is this allows you to customize even more the WeakAuras. So if you've used my WeakAuras in the past for retail, for Battle for Azeroth, and Shadowland, my offensive ability used to sit on this side of the WeakAuras on the left side, and my interrupts and my stun used to sit on the right side over here. Well, if that's something that you enjoyed, you can easily do that. So let's say that we take the summon here and we move it to the left side group. Well, we're simply going to hit it with a quick reload here, and there you go. It is now sitting on this side of the auras. It is now just resting here, ready to be tracked. If that's something that helps you out a little bit to maybe separate the abilities, you're going to be able to customize these as much as you want, the sizing, the positioning, and then you can also do the same thing for the other side here. So we're going to go ahead and revert this change real quick before we forget about it. There we go. We're going to put it back down. So that's going to be pretty much the utility of these groups. If there's ever anything that you want to put in there, maybe you want to put all of your pet ability. Maybe you want to have those maybe be on the left or the right side. Well, feel free to do that. We already covered the core, so we're going to now move on to the maintenance part. The maintenance group is going to be a little group that's sitting right here at the bottom underneath the secondary bar. And this is pretty much going to be your maintenance buff. So do you have a presence active? Because there is scenario where you don't have a presence. I've seen it happen a couple of times. So you want to make sure that it's going to alert you if you're ever not in a presence. So it's going to let you know that. And then Horn of Winter as well, and Raise Ally, so the cooldown. So these are like things that didn't quite fit into the core. They're just maintenance stuff or longer cooldown because maybe sometimes there's just not enough place in the core to fit every single ability, especially for Death Knight, which is a class that has a lot of utility and ability at their disposal. So we had to clean up a little bit. It goes into the maintenance group. You're going to be able to show up the behavior and change it and customize it. If you want things to show when it's missing, when it's applied, or maybe always, you're going to be able to change that. I'll show you how in a later section of the video. We're now going to move on to the resources. So the resources sits in the middle right here, in the middle of the core right there. And it contains a health bar, runic power, and runes. So health bar is new. We didn't have that in any of the previous version. By default, it is set to never load. But if you want to simply have your health bar, simply click on it on the health bar Death Knight, go into the load tab and uncheck never. There we go. We're going to go back to here and we're going to do a quick /reload just to make sure everything is working properly. And here you have it. So you now have your own health bar. You can customize the order as well. So if you want it to sit below the runic power, well, you simply move it below. If you want to change the color, you'll be able to do this as well. You'll be able to fully change everything here. So that's going to be quite awesome. Then you're going to have the, the runic powers. So it's just going to sit here. Nothing much to talk about here. And you're going to have your runes for your Death Knight that are going to be sitting in this group here that are going to simply sit at the bottom right there. So with all of this information, you're now going to be well equipped to understand all of the customization that we're going to do to the WeakAuras, and you're going to have a little bit more of an understanding of everything we're going to customize and theme in the next section of this video. All right, so we're now going to go over the custom options for the Death Knight WeakAuras here. This is going to be a pretty big segment, but it should be pretty fun. We'll be able to customize all of this and get a nice new look. So this should be quite interesting. You can click on the Luxthos Death Knight group over here and head over to the custom option. And you'll see a full list of all the things that we can modify here to style and customize our Death Knight WeakAuras. Before we do any of this, though, I want to show you where everything kind of comes from, right? So the general option is going to have all of the options that are general, right? So these can be shared across multiple classes to other people. They're very much global, so they're not going to target anything specific to the Death Knight. You're going to have the options for the class option here. These are going to target more specific things for the DK, so the runic power and the runes. And then in the maintenance category here, you'll get the maintenance icon, so you're going to be able to change the behavior of these. So for example, presences and Horn of Winter, if you guys want to change how they are shown. So this one is shown if missing. This one is show if applied. So if you want, you can do always for both of these so that you always know which presence you're in. And the same thing for Horn of Winter if you want to change that. So they're kind of all spread out a little bit all over the place, but the easiest way to go about this is simply to target the main group. So target the Luxthos Death Knight group. You're going to get a nice preview of all of the WeakAuras, and then you're going to be able to click on custom option, and we're going to be able to start styling. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through every single one of these, and I'm going to build a suggestive design if we want, right? So it's just going to be like a fun design we're going to do together. You don't have to do this. This is simply a possibility of a style you could go for if you ever wanted to. So let's get started. In the global style here, you'll be able to change the border or apply a border pretty much to every single icon in here, including the resource bar. So for now, we're going to leave it at 2. Why not? Let's have this border looking like this. You can even change the color of the border right here. So you can go white or pretty much any color you want for that matter, right? But we're going to stay with the color black over here. It's looking quite nice. If you want, you don't have to apply the border to the resources if that's ever something that you want to do, right? If you don't want to do that, you can uncheck this box. You can also play around with the icon zoom over here. So if we remove the border temporarily, you'll see that the default World of Warcraft icon have this kind of like edge over here, but applying a 30% zoom on the icon allows that border to go away, and then we can apply our own on top of it right here, right? We're going to now move over to the main icons. So this is going to be the main section here with the 8 icon here. We can change the width of these if we wanted. As you can see, everything else kind of follows along here, which is quite nice. We're not going to touch this. We're going to go over for the height instead. So we're going to reduce this to get like this nice rectangle look over here, which I kind of like. I think it looks pretty cool, right? It takes less space. It still gives you nice information. And we're going to adjust the spacing. As you can see, the spacing controls all the spacing around the main icons and around the resources here. So we're going to leave it down to 1 here. The number of icons is going to pretty much change how wide the WeakAuras design is, right? So if you want, you can go all the way down to 4 and you get this nice little design here, super compact if you want to. But we're going to go ahead and move it back to 8, which is the default design that I made the WeakAuras to work with pretty much. So this is what I had in mind when I build them. They're all made to perfectly function this way. So if you ever have any issue, make sure you default back to 8, but otherwise you can still like move around and pretty much do whatever you want. Just make sure you customize. If you don't like having multiple rows or something, you can always adjust that. We're going to leave it at 8 for now. That's the preferred length for the WeakAuras. For the secondary icons here at the bottom, underneath the resources here, we're going to be able to change the width and the height. We're going to move that down a little bit. And the spacing here. There we go. So we get the same look as the main icon. The dynamic icons are going to be sitting on top of the core here on the left and the right. You're going to be able to change their height as well to get the same kind of design we're going for. And you're going to be able to reduce the spacing as well. And they also have a new feature, bottom margin. So if you want them to be right on the core, or if you want to give a little bit of breathing room, you can do this. You can even swap their location if you want the buff and the spell to swap side over here, so that's quite nice. And you can even align them from center instead of starting them from the edge of the design. So instead of going from left and right, growing inward, you can simply align them from the center if you wish so. And also flip them from the center as well. That's pretty nice. The side icons, you're not going to need to modify this unless you've added spell to the left and right groups over here. So this is to style the icons. If you ever decide to move anything in these two groups, make sure to remember to come here and style all of that. The maintenance icon, you're going to get access to the same icon size and spacing here. We're going to reduce this right here. We're going to reduce the spacing to 1, and you're going to get the padding here, or the margin, the top margin at the bottom here, so that you can give some breathing room as well, right? The most important part, though, is going to be the behavior. So if you want to change the behavior of your presence, like I explained earlier, if you want to do always show, if applied, show if missing, all of that good stuff. If you want to change the behavior of those icons, you're going to be able to do so in this category. For the resources now, you're going to be able to change the location of the actual resources group, right? So right now it is sitting below the primary bar, but you can move it above. So you can have it sit up top over here, right? Instead, we're going to leave it down below as the default design. So that's going to be good. And then we can change the height of the bar as well. So this height 1 will control the mana, health, energy, rage. So if you want to change that, this is going to be controlled by this default layer here, the resources height over here, right? If you want, you can customize further down here to choose different resource, but we're going to talk about that in a second here. The resource 2 is going to be for your runes. So if we want, we could go for like a more clean little look like this, kind of nice. And resources 3 is not going to be used by Death Knight right now. Out of combat alpha, pretty interesting. You can fade the opacity of your WeakAuras. If you would like to get an out of a lower alpha opacity on your WeakAuras out of combat, that's pretty cool. And as soon as you get in combat, this will overwrite all the way to 1. You can also ignore an enemy and friendly target. So as soon as you target something, you get ready to fight, they'll show up. So you're aware of your cooldowns. So that's pretty cool, right? The health bar for DK, you're going to be able to customize the height over here. So if you want a different category, let's say you want your height to be a different size than your runic power bar, you're going to be able to do that. You can change the text formatting as well. So this one is using right now full number. You can move to formatted, full +%, formatted +%, and percentage as well. You can change the gradient as well of the health bar here. It's going from a dark green to a light green. You can also remove the gradient and only use the first color as well if you so desire. Same thing here for the runic power bars. You're going to get the height, the color, and the switch for the gradient. And the last group here is going to be the runes. So for the runes, you're going to get the height of the runes here, so you can change that. You're going to get the color for the blood, frost, unholy, death rune, and also the color for the cooldown. So that's going to be quite nice. You're going to be able to get full customization of your runes and have it look exactly as you want to. So now we can close this and see that we got a brand new design right here, and we could go in combat, have some fun with this. But the really, really cool thing about this is that all of this is shareable, okay? So what you can do is you can share this entire general layer here to your other character, for example. So you're going to go into right-click on the general option, copy, custom configuration, and then you can share this with your hunter, for example, right? Paste configuration right here. And he's going to have the same style applied to their WeakAuras. You can also share these with your friends or load them from somebody else online. So if you want, you can go here, export, get this code, and give that to somebody else. And when they import it, or if you grab a style from somebody else, you can click import here. You'll be right there. And then you can apply this style to your WeakAuras. So let's say we go ahead in the Death Knight category here and we click reset to default over here. We're going to be back to the original design right here, right? But then we can take this style here, click copy settings. And as you can see, the option is missing. It's a little bug here. We're going to do a /reload. There we go. We're going to click copy settings, custom configuration, and then we're going to apply it to the general option for DK over here. And voila, we're back with the design that we just created. So that is pretty cool. That is pretty awesome. Make sure you delete this. Never keep duplicate style like this. If you want to keep them, make sure you unload them, right? For sure. So never keep them in the loaded category here. So there you go. You got your style. You're good to go. You can rock these now. You can have fun with these. Let's reset them back down to default. If you ever mess anything up or the import is not what you expected, you can always go back to the original design. You don't have to re-import and redo everything, right? So that's pretty cool. So hopefully that's going to show you how to customize most of the option here. But there's one last thing that I want to talk about here, and it's going to be changing the font. So there's going to be 3 areas that you can change the font on the WeakAuras. There's going to be the middle section here, which is going to use the same number as your default action bar. So as you go right here and you uncheck this, you see that the number disappears both on the WeakAuras and on the action bar. This is because they use the default number in the way that I've built the WeakAuras. It uses the default number from the actual game in order to do this. So in order to change the font of these, you would have to change the default font of World of Warcraft, or you can use an add-on like OmniCC or something a little bit more complex like LVY to change the default font and behavior like I've explained in the installation process of this video. The 2 other locations where you're going to find number value or font that you can change is going to be on the little ones that you're going to find sometimes on some of these WeakAuras. For example, this one here has a little 1 on top. This one has a little 1 here on top. So these are stack, okay? So if ever a buff needs some stack, you're going to see that they have a text layer in the display tab. So if I click the whole group here, go to display and scroll down, you'll see that I get this blue text here, and it tells me, hey, you got 2 auras that have text, Scent of Blood and Bloody Vengeance. You can go here, go to display, scroll down, change the font to whatever you desire, change the size, change the color. Same thing for Bloody Vengeance. Change the font, change the size, change the color, and you're good to go. The last place you're going to have a number that you're going to be able to change is going to be on the health bar and the runic power bar. So these 2, if you go into the display tab, you scroll down all the way to the bottom, you're going to find the text 1 again. You're going to be able to change the font, change the size of the font. Everything you want can be modified here, as well as the runic power bar. You're going to be able to change the font, the color, the size, and you're going to be good to go. So you're going to have a full match design. The last font that I'm going to talk about quickly here is going to be the rune for Death Knight. These are going to have no number by default, right? So if I go in combat right now and I start attacking something, you'll see that the runes don't have any cooldown. You can apply that cooldown if you want. It is currently hidden by default, but we're going to go ahead and show that real quick. So we're going to go right here, and we're going to go in here and do show text right here. So it's going to show the number if you want that. Also, it is pretty important to know that there is something baked into these WeakAuras, and it is the... Oh, there we go. We got a little issue here that happens when you close the menu. If you change something, always do the /reload. That's very important. That's kind of normal that this happens. It's because there's a lot of things that are being modified. You want to make sure that you do a /reload to make sure that everything is good to go. There is a concept in Wrath of the Lich King for Death Knight called Rune Grace. So pretty much, it's pretty complex to explain a little bit in just a short video. You can go online and look a little bit into it. But runes sometimes will recover from their cooldown faster, and you'll have something known as the Rune Grace. So the WeakAuras implement that. So if you use your rune here on your target, you'll see that as they come off cooldown, if you benefited from Rune Grace, they will glow with a little border, letting you know that you should immediately spend them to benefit from the Rune Grace right here. There we go. And if you don't, the glow will simply disappear, letting you know that you're no longer in the Grace rune window. There we go. So that's pretty cool. So if you want to optimize your DPS, this is pretty important to look at and follow. So if you want to read more about that, they are implemented in the WeakAuras, so you're going to be covered on that. So that should be pretty much it. You'll be able to change the font. You'll be able to customize everything to look exactly the way you want to, and you're going to have all of that good information in your hand. So you're going to be able to customize, have fun, and have a good time with the WeakAuras. And so hopefully that was helpful to you. All right, well, that's it for this video. I cannot believe you made it all the way to the end. If you would like to support in any way, shape, or form, make sure to like this video. I know everybody says this, but it's true. Like the video, subscribe to my channel if you want to on YouTube, and come see me on Twitch. I stream every single day on Twitch. I play World of Warcraft, I play variety games, we make WeakAuras, we have a good time. Join us, come throw me a follow, just say hi. I'll be really happy. But in the meantime, I'll see you all in World of Warcraft.